Are you having trouble creating a good visual aid?
Yes.
Do you ever make mistakes like staring directly at your PowerPoint and not connecting to your audience?
Yes.
Well, we are here to teach you how to create and use effective visual aids. Here's an example of what not to do.
Hi, my name's Grace,
My name's Katie.
and we're going to be sending you random facts.
By people.
Here's a link to some hard rock.
United States accepted that.
From the pictures we used to the colors and how we presented, a lot of things went wrong in that presentation.
Now we're going to show you how to make an effective visual aid. Pause this video and open up PowerPoint.
One thing you should definitely keep in mind while making the aid is legibility. Choose a theme that has colors that are not distracting to the audience so you can share your message effectively. For example, choose a neutral theme.
One thing to keep in mind when making a PowerPoint is making sure the font and font size is consistent throughout the whole PowerPoint. It is also very important to make sure you can read it from 8 feet away.
Wait, but I don't have my glasses on. I can't see it.
It is important that we make the font sizes visible so people who are in the back of the room can see the presentation, just like the people who are in the front of the room.
Make sure to add pictures and transitions in your PowerPoint to engage the audience's attention, but also be aware that the pictures have to go along with the PowerPoint and not just be random.
Remember, when choosing a visual aid for your presentation, make sure that you choose one that doesn't have watermarks on it because it will distract the audience and take away from your picture. This is an example of a picture with watermarks on it.
Make sure the information you use on the presentation is relevant to the topic. For example, if you have a presentation talking about animals, there shouldn't really be any graphs, but if you're talking about math, then there would be graphs included. Just make sure whatever you use, it's relevant to the topic.
One important thing when doing visual aids is that you have variation. For example, if I have a presentation about school, I could bring in scissors to represent an object. But you also can make posters, but you have to be careful with those to make sure that they look professional looking, because if you have a messy visual aid, it also can speak poorly about your presentation.
An example of what it's not supposed to look like, since it's really messy and can't be understood very well. And this is an example of an organized visual aid because it's attractive and appealing to the audience.
If you ever add sound to your presentation, you need to make sure it is at a reasonable amount that people's ears won't hurt after, but they also can still hear it. For example, this is what it shouldn't be. But it should be more so that you can still hear me when I'm talking, and you're not going to not be able to hear after my presentation is over.
Make sure you know the materials you are covering when doing a presentation. Make sure you're not relying solely on your visual aid so that you can maintain eye contact and create an engaging audience speaker dynamic.
when I'm sitting in an audience, a visual aid just really helps me focus more because I really like how they always relate to the topic and how it'll help you visualize what they're talking about way better than them not having a visual aid.
One thing I notice as being a presenter is that the audience seems to actually understand more, because sometimes they'll miss what I'm saying because they might doze off or something, but then when I have a visual aid, they're like, oh, that's what I missed. It really helps them pay attention more, I believe, and it also makes them want to see what are they going to talk about next.
So Mr. Salvadori, what do you find most appealing of students when they have visual aids in their presentations?
What I find most appealing in student presentations is when the visual aid is not jumbled full of words, and when technical words are explained in a simpler language, and when there are plenty of graphs and figures that help exemplify the point, instead of just a bunch of words that the students can't pronounce and don't understand, and they pretend to know it and they fumble through it, and I sit there correcting their pronunciation and things along those lines. So graphics, visual aids go hand in hand to me with things that'll exemplify what you're trying to say instead of just the words of what you're saying.
Now we're going to introduce to you how to present an effective visual aid.
Hi, my name is Jacob.
My name's Dalton.
We are teaching you how to use an effective visual aid. And the first thing you need to keep in mind when making an effective visual aid is to not turn your back like this to the screen. You want to make sure you engage your audience at all times.
Turning your back on your audience also makes them feel disengaged.
What you want to keep in mind is to make sure the information you have is relevant. Now, not only is it relevant, but you can see here the information we have on the board is a small word count so that we can actively engage our audience and they can follow along pretty easily along with us.
Visibility is very important. As you can see in this slide, someone from the back row can easily see it and understand it, which is what you want in a good visual aid.
As you can see here in this example, it is very visually appealing to the eye. So one thing you need to make sure is that it doesn't give your audience a headache, but it doesn't also bore them to death with just boring colors.
Making sure that you use different photos and different diagrams creates variation and helps people from all audiences understand and digest the information you're trying to convey. For example, you can help bring in other objects to grab the audience's attention, like this shark.
And that's all I need to know when creating a visual aid.